Hey there everyone, Ed here with HighPoint, and today we're going to be taking a look at some tips on how to maximize your Celestron Origin experience. All right, let's get into it. If you've watched some of our past videos, you might be familiar with some of the deep dives that I tend to do on this channel, like the ASI Air Ultimate Guide, how to collimate your Newtonian telescope with a Cheshire collimating eyepiece, or how to control your EQ6R Pro mount wirelessly. That was my goal with today's video as well. However, once I got out there and used the Celestron Origin, I found that it really is that simple. So in today's video, instead of taking a look at how to image, we're instead going to be taking a look at the supporting setup, settings, and features that you can use to make the most out of your Celestron Origin. We'll be breaking up the tips in today's video into 3 sections: setup, settings, and imaging, which will all be marked in timestamps down below if you want to jump ahead. Though, we do recommend that you stick around for the full video. We're going to be jumping into the Origin in just a second, but real quick, I did want to take a moment to thank you guys so much for checking out today's video and for all of your support. If you find today's video helpful, be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more astronomy, astrophotography, and astro gear-based content. We've got a great video from Tegan that shows just how awesome Origin can be for outreach. So if you're looking for more Origin after today's video, be sure to go check that video out. The first thing you'll need to do with the Celestron Origin is get a line of communication going. Now there's 2 ways that you can go about doing that, either directly or over your local network. I'm going to show you both in this video, starting with the direct connection. There's 2 ways to connect to the Celestron Origin directly. You can let the app handle it, or you can set up the wireless connection manually. I tend to find that setting these things up manually just works a little bit better. However, in my experience with the Celestron Origin app, I found that it handled things pretty well. So in this case, it might just come down to your personal preference. To connect manually, navigate to the Wi-Fi settings on your mobile device and then look for the Origin's hotspot. Tap on it and then enter 1234555 as the password. Now on some devices, you're going to get a pop-up asking if you want to stay connected to the Origin's hotspot because it's noticed that there's no internet access. If you get this dialog box, just make sure that you accept, and then either way, I recommend pausing for a second on the Wi-Fi settings screen to make sure that your mobile device doesn't try and jump to another Wi-Fi network. Now to connect to the Origin from the app, open the app and make sure you navigate to this home screen here. Once you're here, go ahead and tap on the Wi-Fi icon in the top left-hand corner of the screen. And from here, you'll get a dialog box asking if you want to allow the Origin app to make wireless connections for you. I'm going to go ahead and hit accept on that dialog box. And you're going to see that it's now going to start looking for the Origin on the network that my mobile device is currently attached to. Once it fails to find the Origin on that network, it's now going to fall back to trying to make a direct connection to the Origin. Once it finds it, it's going to give me a new dialog box asking if I want to make the jump to the Origin's hotspot, which I'm going to accept. The app will then take care of connecting to the Origin directly and bring us to this initialization screen here. Now, regardless of how you set up a direct connection to the Origin, once you are connected, from here we can go ahead and set up our local network connection. Now, you may have heard of a setup like this called station mode before, and this works in much the same way. Back on our home screen, we're going to want to go ahead and tap the menu button on our main bar down here, and then tap on the settings. Once we're in the settings, we're going to want to make sure we're in the telescope Wi-Fi settings submenu, and then scroll down to the bottom where we see this section called Wi-Fi networks visible to the telescope. Now just a quick note here, if your router supports multiple bands such as 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, or even 6 gigahertz, you might see multiple access points here. If you do, I recommend sticking with the 2.4 gigahertz band. Now down here, I'm going to go ahead and tap on the local network that I want to connect to, and then I'm going to enter my password. From here, I'm going to want to go ahead and tap Add on the dialog box. And now we can see that my local network shows up under the configured Wi-Fi networks for the Origin. Now once my local network is added to the configured Wi-Fi networks, I'm going to go ahead and tap on it, and then tap on Connect in the dialog box that shows up on my tablet. I'm now going to get another dialog box instructing me to make the switch to my local network on my mobile device. Now from here you're going to see a countdown in the app, and then it's going to try to connect to the origin on your local network. Now if the app doesn't find the origin on your local network, don't worry. From there the app will fall back to trying to find the origin's direct hotspot connection and then trying to reestablish that through the app. You can also reestablish that connection manually to regain control of the origin. Now once you have the local network set up on the origin and on the origin app, every time you restart the origin and your app, you should just be able to connect to it through the local connection. However, sometimes I find that I do need to go through the local network connection setup a couple of times. Now if this is what you experience, don't worry, nothing's wrong with your origin, it's just trying to navigate your unique network. Now, if you're like me and you have tall trees in your yard or around you, or just some other sort of tall obstruction, what you might find is that these can block Origin's view and cause it to fail the auto initialization or calibration process. So one thing you can do to get around this is to go to the menu, go to Show Telescope Controls. Up here is the different rates of speed, and for this, I'm gonna keep it at 4. And then you just use these arrow keys on the side of the screen to move the origin around. What you're going to want to do is manually slew the origin until it's facing a clear patch of sky. Once you've got this pointed properly, go ahead and tap this Reinitialize Telescope button at the top of the screen. For a system designed to be as automated as the origin is, there's actually quite a bit of control if you're interested in it. We don't have time to go over every setting in detail in this video, so what I want to do is just stop and show you some of the most important settings and features that you'll want to take a look at and use. Back in the Wi-Fi settings menu, you'll find these two toggles right here. The first toggle will allow you to switch the Origin's hotspot from 2.4 GHz to 5 GHz. I recommend turning this off, as 2.4 is more reliable and plenty fast for what we're doing. Just keep in mind that if you are directly connected to the origin when you turn this toggle off, you will need to go through directly connecting to it again, either through the app or through the Wi-Fi settings as I showed you earlier. Now the second toggle tells the app to only try and make direct connections to the origin's hotspot, which can come in handy if you've set up the local network connection wrong or you're just having issues with it and you want to try and bypass connecting to the origin on your local network while you sort through the issue. Now the version and updates subsection is pretty straightforward. The screen works a lot like ones you might be used to. If you pull down, you'll check for updates, and if one's available, you can follow the prompts on screen to install it. Now one thing I can say about this screen is that 1, it currently takes a while to check, so be patient, and 2, if an update's available, make sure your mobile device and the origin are charged and that you're in a spot with a strong connection to the origin. You don't want this process getting interrupted. The first setting to look at in the advanced menu is the autofocus section. I recommend turning on the on temperature change autofocus as well as the after go to any object autofocus. The Origin's autofocus is really pretty quick, so you're not really losing anything by turning these on, and you're only getting better results. Next is the dew heater section. Now the Celestron Origin has sensors built in, and I've found them to be pretty accurate, so I recommend leaving this setting on auto. If you find auto isn't quite working for you, first I would try adjusting the aggressiveness down here of the auto setting. If that's still not working, you can manually turn on the dew heater and adjust its power output with this slider down here. Now here under camera and imaging, the main features that I want to focus on are the Save Raw Images feature and then all the AI processing features. Toggling on Save Raw Images will tell the Origin to save all the individual frames instead of discarding them after they've been integrated into the final stacked images. Now at first you'll probably want to turn this setting off as it can eat up a good deal of space, but when you're ready to try your hand at post-processing yourself, come back and turn this setting on to tell the Origin to save the individual FITS files. Celestron has added AI processing into the Origin, which can help tighten up stars, identify and remove gradients, and denoise both the live and final images. Depending on your preference, these can be toggled on or off in this section here. And just a quick note, the denoise toggles are AI, they just aren't marked that way. Now there's a lot of different possible combinations you can make with these toggles here, and I highly encourage that you experiment turning these on and off to find the combination that works best for your preferences. But as just a quick comparison, here are two shots of the same section of the North American Nebula, shot for the same amount of time. One has all of the AI processing turned on, and the other has everything turned off. You'll also see the ability to recapture flat and dark calibration frames in this advanced section. Unless you're going to be messing with the camera's orientation, we strongly recommend leaving these alone. Your Celestron Origin comes with calibration frames from the factory, and we found that these produce fantastic results without touching these settings. Now under this tab, you can manage the files that are saved on the Origin. I think the most efficient way to manage your files is to export them all to a USB drive and then sort through them on a computer, which you can do by inserting a USB drive into the side of the Origin, and then tapping Copy All to USB here. Make sure that you got everything, then just come back and delete all image directories with this button here. If you want to move over individual folders, the app does support that. However you want to manage this, just make sure that your USB drive is formatted with one of the FAT formats. Now next I'm going to touch on display options, but before I do that I do want to touch on something related, which is how to bring the Origin's view to the big screen. Now this is not a function of the app itself, but rather of your device. So if you have an Android, you'll want to take a look at either screen casting or screen mirroring, and if you have an Apple iPhone or iPad, you'll want to take a look at Apple AirPlay. Now if your TV doesn't support either of these technologies, or if your mobile device doesn't support them for that matter, another avenue that you can look at is an HDMI dongle that'll connect to your phone and then output an HDMI signal to your TV. Alright, circling back to the display options here, you can see there's actually quite a few subsections. These all control how the digital planetarium you use to control the Origin looks, from cosmetic changes like changing the horizon from, say, a desert road to a snowy summit, to other changes such as changing what objects will be highlighted in the digital planetarium. I suggest experimenting with this during the day to get the planetarium set up exactly how you want it so you can maximize your observing time later. The Origin app has this neat feature where it can alert you to interesting celestial targets or events going on to let you know that it's a good night to take out the Origin. If that's something that you're interested in, here's where you can turn that on. And even cooler, you can also set what window of time you want to get these alerts in. Say, when you're normally done with dinner, and trying to decide if you want to take the scope out or not. Now the date and time tab allows you to set the, well, date and time, if for whatever reason you find it isn't getting pulled in correctly. But it also has these jump points of sorts. These briefly allow you to set the app to a later time so you can see what the sky will look like at, say, dusk end, so that you can plan an imaging session accordingly, and then you just come back in here and hit now to resync your time accordingly. Now if you're using a device without a GPS, say a tablet like I am here, or if you find that your location is incorrect for whatever reason, here you can adjust that. Now if you are using a device without a GPS, you've probably already found this menu because the app will regularly try and bring you here. But one thing to know is that after you set the correct location, you can just ignore the rest of these notifications that will try and redirect you. I find that the Origin's default framing is pretty good most of the time. However, there are times when I want something just a little bit different. Luckily, in the app, it's pretty easy to adjust that. Use the manual control arrows on either side of the screen, adjusting your speed if needed, to slew the frame shown on screen across the digital planetarium until the image shown in there matches the framing that you would like for your Origin image. Once you've got your framing where you want it, go ahead and tap the camera icon and go through the process of starting an imaging session like you normally would. Now, if you want even more precise framing control, first go ahead and use the method we just described to get your framing as close as possible. Then tap the camera icon, but do not start an imaging session like you normally would. Instead, tap the reframe icon. This will take the current live image on screen and zoom you into it. From here, you'll have a crosshair in the middle of your screen, and then you will just drag around until the crosshairs are lined up with the new star or section of the sky that you want to be your new center point. From here, you'll tap the recentering icon in the main bar down below, and the scope will begin to slew to its new center point. Now, sometimes you'll see the scope slew way off your new center point and the target, but don't worry, just be patient, it's coming right back. The Origin app has a really neat feature where you can plan an entire night of imaging in advance. And then, come nighttime, you simply set up your Origin, connect to it, hit the run button, and launch an entire star tour. This is all done through the scheduling feature. When you're on an object's information screen, whether you got there from the Tonight's Best, the catalog, the search, or just by tapping on it in the digital planetarium, you can tap the schedule button down at the bottom here to add it to your imaging schedule. The app will automatically pick ideal camera settings and imaging time for the target you selected. So all you need to do is add all of the objects that you want, and then at night you're going to go to your menu, Tonight's Schedule, and after you've set up, go ahead and hit the Run Schedule Now button. This will start your imaging session, and no further input from you is required. Once the imaging session is done, you can access it by going to the menu, Imaging Schedules, and under Previous Imaging Schedules, the imaging schedule that you just run will show up, and all of the images that it collected will be accessible from here. Now, when you go to end an imaging session, you'll be greeted with three options. The option to undo ending the image session, the option to discard all of the data so you can just move on to imaging something else, or the option to save your image. Now, if you choose to save your image, the Origin is going to take a minute and put the finishing touches on your data, and then save a copy to your camera roll or image gallery. You'll know that this has happened when you get a screen with editing sliders on it. Now, if you want to tweak your image from here, you can adjust these sliders and then save a copy or choose to overwrite the original. Now, the Origin does a pretty good job of post-processing and producing a great image right off the bat. However, I still do encourage you to mess around with those sliders and then save a copy. If you find that you were too aggressive with the edits or don't quite like your result later, you'll always have that original copy from the Origin to admire. Alright guys, I hope you found today's video helpful, and as always, we look forward to hearing your comments down in the comments section down below. Be sure to let us know how you use Origin, what settings you like to use, and any other tips and tricks that you've picked up along the way that you've found enhance your Origin experience. Alright, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, clear skies.